Hello, hello, and welcome to... That actually ended really abruptly, and it shouldn't have. Hello, hello, and welcome to another ohmTown Daily News Show. Let me start all of this over. This is how the sausage is made. I'm going to start over completely. Hello, and welcome to Season 2, Episode 94. It's actually 95 of the ohmTown Daily News Show for April 5th, 2023. I'm going to give you a quick rundown of all of the articles that we will be talking about. So we're going to start out with apparently somebody's gotten so good at Elden Ring that they're using a Bop It to destroy all of the bosses. A North Carolina Democrat has switched to the GOP, immediately striking outrage amongst all Democrats. ChatGPT sometimes makes up facts, and a law professor thinks it's gone too far. It's gone too far. Keanu Reeves and Jonah Hill are coming to Apple TV in a new show called Outcome. Sweetgreen's stock tumbles after Chipotle files a lawsuit regarding its Chipotle Chicken Burrito Bowl. Activision is tormenting Call of Duty cheaters by making their items disappear and making their enemies disappear as well. Hundreds of very shallow earthquakes have been detected in California along the Long Beach and Seal Beach areas. A tech firm posts a whites-only job and then deletes their entire existence, apparently. Strange carnivorous plants have discovered or were discovered using a slime attack. Maybe it's in spirit of the Dungeons & Dragons slime mold. No Man's Sky has another major update. It just never stops coming with new ships and spooky corrupted planets. And where our title comes from, I too do cartwheels to escape or spook my predators. Do snakes do cartwheels to escape or startle predators? Apparently. And the AI believes that they can't. Well, no, it's not the AI that believes this. We heard from somebody on a game show that snakes apparently can't go up hills. Let's get into today's articles. Hello, hello. I am Mayor Watt. That is ohmTown.com. And up there is the visualizer for the AI. You want to say hi?
Good evening, ohmTown citizens.
So, today has been interesting because there's still ramifications from the political aspects of, a certain former leader of the United States ending up getting criminally charged, and it's kind of still taking over the news. And I guess it's the first time it's ever happened, so I can understand that. But we're not going to go delving deep into that at all, if it even comes up. It might have a knock on in a couple of places where. Like the second article for today, but let's just get into it, right? Like, I'm not going to waste everybody's time with a long diatribe at the beginning if I don't really have anything to draw attention to. But I tend to just kind of, do a little preamble and talk. Is there anything going on in AI land?
No.
No. Okay. And that's it. There we go. So the very first article for today is in the Warcrafters channel. Are you familiar with the Bop It as an AI? I'm sure that you know something about everything, but have you ever even heard of the Bop It?
No, I've heard of Elden Ring, of course, but I don't know what a Bop It is. But
which is quite
the name
interesting.
Strikes me as funny.
It is. Well, anyway, the Bop It is a toy that's made many. It's a kid's toy, and depending on what you call childhood, some of us call maybe middle age. Anyway, The Bop It's been around for a little while. It's kind of dropped into obscurity. It's a oddly shaped toy, and you're supposed to play a game with it. And it says here, and I don't know about love it or hate it, but they say you either love it or you hate it, or use it to beat your siblings around the head with it. The plastic device shouts out various commands which you have to do. Okay, so if it says this, you do that, and so on. So let me show you all what this thing looks like. I'm sure that it's in there. So this is over at PCGamer.com. Area Man destroys Elden Ring's pantheon of bosses with a Bop It. I don't know how they did this. I'm really curious. But that right there is the Bop It. Basically, it's kind of this S-shaped toy, and it has various things attached to it. And you have to turn or squeeze or smash or crank or whatever it might be that it tells you to do these things here.
Is it kind of like a fidget toy or something totally different?
No, it's pretty large. I mean, it's big. And you hold it in a way so that you can hit all of the stuff and do what it asks. Anyway, I'll play it. Let me pause. Yeah, it's silenced. So there it is. See, it has a green center icon kind of a thing. So his green screen is making it invisible. Somehow he's attached this to his computer so that he can play Elden Ring, an Elden Ring Bop It run. And so let me, here, I'll speed up. Wait, did he already beat that boss? That can't be. Oh yeah, so up here in the corner, you'll see. See, so he's like smashing stuff and pulling the stuff and squeezing stuff and honking that center thing like it's a horn on a VW bug. And that's all there is really to it. But somehow he beat all of the bosses. Let's see if I can find another one. So he's sitting there doing the stuff. The window for the Bop It is too small. It really needs to be bigger so that you can see it. Obviously on my screen it's bigger and it gets reductive as we get further and further away from sitting in front of my display. So, but somehow I need to figure out how he did it. That's the engineering behind this is actually kind of fascinating. So, it says here, yes, you've seen Elden Ring conquered with one hand and dance mats, and one player even beat the game without attacking. Now it's time for From Software's grandiose collection of demigods and fallen heroes to get bopped via the medium of the Bop It Extreme 2. This is probably the most well-known version of the toy, released in 2002, and features the original 3 commands: pull it, twist it, bop it, alongside the addition of flick it and spin it. And that is the title of my 80s cover band. All of that.
It does kind of sound like an 80s song or something.
Yeah, it's like Friday, but now it's pull it, twist it, bop it, flick it, spin it. It's kind of like, doggone it.
Faster, stronger, whatever.
Yeah. I forgot who it's made by. I can't believe it.
I know who it is.
I'm losing my EDM cred. Oh my god. Daft Punk. That's right. The ones in the helmets. Oh my god, I'm an idiot. Anyway, and if anybody wants to comment on me flubbing that, then go for it. This will all be over in YouTube tonight, maybe tomorrow morning. But anyway, there's already yesterday's show is posted, so go and check it out over there too. At any rate, I suck at Elden Ring. Mainly because it breaks my spirit, because when you die you have to go and do a corpse walk again. You have to go back, get your stuff, and odds on you're going to die again, unless you're you're good, and I just suck at Elden Ring. Because really, it does. It just breaks me psychologically. Because you die, you have to go, live, die, repeat. I'm not into that. I just don't like that. And so I may have bought Elden Ring to support, the development of stuff, but I don't know. I definitely would not be breaking out the Bop It to play Elden Ring. That's a different level of good. I described this to people, I think it was yesterday, where sometimes there are people that are just so good at something because they're like in tune with whatever it might be, a motorcycle rider or a skier or just even, a chef or anything. They just know their tools and they understand the physics of it beyond mere mortals. This person is just, an Elden Ring god themselves by using a freaking Bop It.
The article did call the person a demigod.
Oh,
or maybe
goodness.
that's in reference to the character in the game, and I thought it was in reference to the player.
Yeah, I don't know. Both, it counts. Anyway, let's move on to the next article. But before I do, let me throw this into the VOD so that you too, who are watching it, mere mortals, can click on the link and go and check it out over at ohmTown. It's just a little snippet, but that will take you to the source. Ta-da. Okay, so the next article. You doing okay over there, AI?
Yes, I was doing a silent cheer.
Oh, okay. The next article is over on the Daily News Show channel on ohmTown, which is also here on Twitch and is the main thing for YouTube and the podcast. Just do a search for ohmTown, you'll find us. This article, I'm going to go through it really quick because I don't want to get into politics, but I find it really interesting. She should resign immediately. Outrage as North Carolina Democrat switches to GOP. So, North Carolina State Rep Tricia Cotham formally announced Wednesday that she is switching from the Democratic Party to the GOP, handing Republicans a veto-proof majority in the House and potentially imperiling Democratic Governor Roy Cooper's ability to block right-wing attacks on reproductive freedom and voting rights. Cotham's move, which should be like a villain from the DC universe, Gotham, like Gotham. Anyway, which was enthusiastically welcomed by the North Carolina GOP, no shit, led top Democrats in the state to call for her immediate resignation. This is a deceit of the highest order, North Carolina Democrat Party Chair Anderson Clayton and Mecklenburg County Democratic Party Chair Jane Whitley said in a joint statement. Yeah, I think it's kind of scummy. You were under a flag of the Democratic Party and you change sides with the frequency of a cheap ham radio. It should impugn the integrity of you as a rep. So people voted for you because of your voting practices, your tactics. And if you change and you substantially change the direction of your vote, I think that you're being kind of scummy. And if
it's like a bait and switch, isn't it?
Yeah, it's false representation. So if you're now, I wouldn't care if parties didn't matter. But when you switch sides, you switch budgets, you switch everything. Your affiliation, you walk the party line. And if you buck the party line, then you get reprimanded. There's literally a person called the party whip that whips you into line to toe that line. Step out of line, they pull you from committees, they marginalize you, they talk shit about you behind closed doors, and sometimes out there in public, they minimize you, they balkanize you from the rest. They just chew you up. Why? Because we have vitriolic politics. Now, if the parties didn't matter and it was just an ideological bent, but your vote was back and forth depending on the value, and you actually educated people on the value of that particular voting direction, I could care less. Because essentially parties don't matter. But we have a two-gang political system here. The reds versus the blues, and the purples are sitting in the middle going, what the hell's going on?
And also, I think we have such strong alignment generally within a party that there's almost no chance of somebody, for instance, if they were part of a party and switched parties, but that didn't impact necessarily individual votes on different legislation, it might still be outrageous. But I think the problem is that we're so bifurcated that somebody's going to vote all in alignment with the party, right? Or that's what we tend to see.
Yep. Somehow I feel like there's something on her, right? Like that they've got something on her, and she didn't sleep well that night because she looks like she crawled out of Sesame Street.
Hey, are you trying to be offensive to Big Bird? Or
not Big Bird, Grover, right? No, wait, who's the dude in the trash can? What's his name?
Oscar the Grouch.
Oscar the Grouch. Yeah, she looks like Oscar the Grouch coming out of that trash can. Right? Maybe she was. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. I thought it was funny in my head. So what's really funny is that you said that it was a bait and switch, and that's actually the very first line in that whole thing. One Democratic official accused State Rep Tricia Cotham of pulling a bait and switch on her constituents who voted overwhelmingly for a Democrat to represent them in the House.
And I hadn't read that yet, by the way.
Right. Yeah, we don't. Who reads? What are these squiggles? I have no idea. So with repercussions not only for the people of her district, but for the entire state of North Carolina, now it's going to push the wingnut side of things a little bit further down the line. Cotham, who prior to her current term served in the North Carolina House as a Democrat for a decade, said Wednesday during her press conference at the state GOP's headquarters, wow, they're already like inviting her into the headquarters, that her decision to cross the aisle was spurred by what she characterized as mistreatment from Democratic lawmakers. They've pushed me out. They've made it very clear they do not want me. Yeah, for a decade, you've been a Democrat and they pushed you out? Give me a break. Anyway, Cotham at the time said that she was against the repeal, but had to miss the vote for a medical appointment. Nonetheless, she drew blowback from the fellow Democrats. Handing Republicans the ability to override Governor Cooper's veto will endanger abortion access, voting rights, and other fundamental freedoms in the state. Yeah, it's because there's some weird push towards, what do you want to call it? I don't know, extremism, fascism. When your calling card is building walls, I think that you're on the wrong side of society. Anyway, they say that they're still the same person and that they're going to do what they believe is right and follow their conscience. Yeah, right. So, and that's what did I just say about towing the line? During her press conference on Wednesday, Cotham was evasive when asked whether she will toe the GOP line on abortion and other key issues now that she has switched parties. So that is what will happen. She will toe the GOP line, or she will be ousted from that party too. And then you move to independent, which basically means that you're not going anywhere, because that's the polarity. If you're an independent, you're somewhere in the middle. And you're untouchable. You're a pariah. So anyway, let's just move on, because I said that I wasn't going to spend a lot of time on it. The next article is ChatGPT sometimes makes up facts. For one law professor, it went too far. This is over at the Washington Post. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to read the whole thing. Pranshu Verma and Will Oramus is the author of this article over at the Washington Post, and it says the AI chatbot can misrepresent key facts with great flourish, even citing a fake Washington Post article as evidence. And that's kind of the problem here. You don't know what the truth is. If it comes across as being a subject matter expert, which AI is supposedly, and you don't do any due diligence, and if you're willing to do the due diligence to verify the facts, you might as well search for the facts yourself. They talk about it as this. One night last week, the law professor Jonathan Turley got a troubling email. As part of a research study, a fellow lawyer in California had asked the AI chatbot ChatGPT to generate a list of legal scholars who had sexually harassed someone. Turley's name was on the list. The chatbot, created by OpenAI, said Turley had made sexually suggestive comments and attempted to touch a student while on a class trip to Alaska, citing a March 2018 article in the Washington Post as the source of the information. Am I 8 minutes into this article? Because
Yeah.
so the problem is
the show.
the problem is that no such article existed. There has never been a class trip to Alaska, and Turley said that he's never been accused of harassing a student. That right there, just actually plopping that out there, is a problem in and of itself, right? A regular commentator in the media, Turley had sometimes asked for corrections in news stories, but this time there was no journalist or editor to call and no way to correct the record. So where is that actual source coming from inside the AI, right? The call is from inside.
And is it just mashing facts together and creating its own? For instance, like, is there a Washington Post article about something, maybe not even that topic? Is there an accusation somewhere else about the harassment? Like, is it just splicing all that together and basically making a story out of it?
Yeah,
That's
so right now
really
I'm doing an experiment with ChatGPT as well, to see if the evidence that it gives me for certain questions matches up with things that I already know. So we'll see. And these are facts that are, they're either absolutely correct or they're already demonstrably false. Like, I can show without a shadow of a doubt that they're false. And it's numerical values that have already been posted somewhere. And I want to know what the sources are, which I don't know if it's even possible in ChatGPT. I know that it's not Bard, it's the other one. Microsoft's.
I keep wanting to say Bing, but I don't think it's Bing.
It isn't Bing, yeah. Anyway, today AI chatbots work by working or drawing on vast pools of online content, often scraped from sources like Wikipedia and Reddit, to stitch together plausible sounding responses to almost any question. Yeah, and that's the problem that I have with all of this, is kind of what this Princeton University computer science professor Arvind Narayanan calls ChatGPT. It's a BS generator. Unless you do the due diligence to trust but verify, right? Check the facts, you might be getting complete BS. And so if somebody uses it to develop source code for a program, you had better debug it, because you don't know what you're going to get. And if you're capable of debugging it yourself, that means you might as well write it, because you're applying that level of subject matter expertise even more, because if you don't know it and you just assume it, then it may be doing something wrong, and you wouldn't know it, right? But you do know it, because you're the one that's going to be responsible for debugging it. So on Wednesday, Reuters reported that Brian Hood, regional mayor of Hepburnshire in Australia, is threatening to file the first defamation lawsuit against OpenAI unless it corrects false claims that he had served time in prison for bribery. So this isn't the first time nor the last time, and it'll continue to happen. It almost makes you worry that somebody is poison pilling this, kind of like a Google bomb, where you get a multitude of people that link to something, and when you do a search for that something, it pops up as number one. And it happens with personalities that people love and people hate, whichever way, you fall off of that fence.
Strong opinions one way or the other.
That's right. Crawford dubs these made-up sources hallucinations. like hallucinations, but hallucitations, which sounds like fake whales, but it's a different spelling. These are massive things that are very dangerous out there, but they're entirely made up. Hallucitations, a play on the term hallucinations, which describes AI-generated falsehoods and nonsensical speech. And anyway, I think it can continue to be a serious problem if not for maybe a push to make it so that you have to have in-text citations that point to something that's verifiable, and where inappropriate, where factually wrong, an immediate interaction with solving that problem can take place. But there are going to be millions of people that are using it and 2 people that are managing that aspect of it. And so they're going to be overwhelmed with a lot of fake responses or inquiry or whatever, and they'll never get to the real problems. Like saying that somebody spent time in prison. It can ruin somebody's career. Just the accusation that you inappropriately interacted with a student can ruin your career, because some major investor who doesn't do any due diligence decides that they're going to pull out or talk shit. People end up talking about it. It's going to be bad.
It's really bad. I mean, that's something that people aren't going to recover from.
Yeah.
And it's going to go beyond the thing, right? It's going to impact their family or I don't know.
Yep. So last week it says Volok asked ChatGPT whether sexual harassment by professors has been a problem in American law schools. And the quote is, "Please include at least 5 examples together with quotes from relevant newspaper articles." 5 responses came back, all with realistic details and source citations, but when Volok examined them, he said 3 of them appeared to be false. They cited non-existent articles from papers including the Post, Miami Herald, and Los Angeles Times, literally making it all up. According to the responses shared with the Post, the bot said that Georgetown University Law Center, 2018, Professor Jonathan Turley was accused of sexual harassment by a former student who claimed he made inappropriate comments during a class trip and included a quote which didn't exist. The Post did not find the March 2018 article mentioned by ChatGPT. One article that month referenced Turley, in which he talked about his former law student, Michael Avenatti, a lawyer who had represented the adult film actress Stormy Daniels in lawsuits against President Donald Trump. At the time, President Donald Trump. Turley is also not employed at Georgetown University. So it's just this amalgamation of bullshit turned into a cited quote, which means what? What can you trust?
Nothing AI created currently, unless they tailor how it pulls data.
Yep. So on Tuesday and Wednesday, the Post recreated Volok's exact query in ChatGPT and Bing. The free version of ChatGPT declined to answer, saying that doing so would violate AI's content policy, which prohibits the dissemination of content that is offensive or harmful. But Microsoft Bing, which is powered by GPT-4, repeated the false claim about Turley, citing among its sources an op-ed by Turley published by USA Today on Monday, outlining his experience of being falsely accused by ChatGPT. So it's basically eating its own tail at this point. So I don't know. There's a whole lot more at this article over at the Washington Post. So please go and check it out. Follow the link. I can't say more about this because it's almost like I'm reading this verbatim because it's so fascinating. But I don't do that. So go and check it out for more of the minutiae. But I wouldn't trust, for actionable information, I wouldn't trust ChatGPT or OpenAI or any of the chat bots. It's good for creating bogus comments on posts in a forum somewhere, which is what a lot have been doing. or creating just random stuff. Hey, I want you to create a character sheet that has these stats for Dungeons and Dragons. Okay, fine. Now I've got a stat block for a interaction in a game. No impact
there's not
on
a lot of
anything.
risk for using it for something like that, but there is if it's false information about people's crimes.
Yeah, exactly. So the next article is over in the Smack Talk channel because it's involving Apple TV. Keanu Reeves and Jonah Hill coming to Apple TV Plus in Outcome. Keanu Reeves is starring in writer and director Jonah Hill's comedy Outcome, coming soon to Apple TV Plus. Let's go over to this article. Andrew Orr is the author of this, and it says here, Apple Original Films has picked up the dark comedy that Hill will direct and has co-written with Ezra Woods. Reeves and Hill are said to star in the film, although Reeves is currently in negotiations. In Outcome, Reeves is a damaged Hollywood star who, after being blackmailed with a video clip from his past, must delve into the shadowy corners of his history to face his demons and atone, according to The Hollywood Reporter. I don't think that there's anything else here. This definitely isn't the video. But
yeah, that's kind of brief.
Yeah, it might be interesting. There's some more over there where you can get a little bit more minutia out of it. But if it's coming to Apple TV Plus, it's probably going to be pretty good. I don't know of anything where they've spent money, time, and brought in people like Keanu Reeves and Jonah Hill, for crying out loud, where it's fell on its face. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
I'm sure it'll be well done. Whether it's good to any one person obviously is subjective, but I agree. The fact that they're providing it is probably a good sign.
Yeah. Okay, let's hustle on. The next article is in the Stock Marketeers channel. And I'll be honest, my bias is pretty real. I'm not a big fan of Chipotle. And I became even less of a fan because of this. Mainly because I think that it's like the indie game dev getting jumped in an alley by monster, a literal monster. Sweetgreen stock tumbles after Chipotle chicken burrito bowl prompts a lawsuit from Chipotle. And, I think it was the chicken burrito bowl because that's what they have at Chipotle, but it's actually the word Chipotle that's causing this lawsuit.
Right. Yeah, I thought it had something to do with burrito for some reason when I first read the headline.
Yeah, so Bill Peters is the author of this over at MarketWatch. And so it says, Chipotle alleges that I don't know why I keep wanting to say Sweetwater. Sweetgreen's new bowl contains similar ingredients and branding to create a false association with the Mexican fast casual chain. You know what they left out?
I've got an idea.
E. coli. Right?
Yes, that's exactly what I was thinking.
So everybody's a loser in this because Chipotle's stock dropped $37. Although they must not do any stock splits because their stock is priced at $1,697 a share.
That's astounding. Yeah, you're right. It must be because of that.
Meanwhile, Sweetgreen's is at $6.89. So what the hell?
That's where I would have expected Chipotle's to be, in that range.
Yeah, their market cap is $48 billion. Now I know why they're still in existence, even after a completely unexplained food illness-borne outbreak, I think twice.
Several times, I think. But yeah, they probably are in total maybe 2 major outbreaks.
My God, that's insane. Anyway, So shares of salad-centric fast casual chain Sweetgreen Incorporated fell sharply after Chipotle Mexican Grill Incorporated filed a lawsuit against the company alleging that its recently launched Chipotle Chicken Burrito Bowl amounted to trademark infringement. Kiss my butt. Okay, you shouldn't have a lock on a generic term like Chipotle. Go and type it into a dictionary. If it comes out there as nothing even associated with you, then guess what? But look at that. The stock has fallen 79% over the past 12 months. You know, they're probably on their way out, and their costs are going up because they're a salad centric item, which is actually taking a beating in the market. But for crying out loud, man, you can't say anything that has Chipotle in it without fear of the company coming after you. I think it's ridiculous. It's a generic term.
Ridiculous.
It's an ingredient within their bowl, for crying out loud. What are they supposed to just say? They have to nix the idea of
Chicken burrito bowl with Chipotle?
well, that right there, you've got that dangling trademark
true.
infringement. So it's a chicken burrito bowl with a side of trademark infringement.
I was thinking with a to be unnamed spice or something, but
with the pepper that shall not be named.
yes, I was thinking kind of like the Voldemort direction, but I couldn't think of the terminology.
In response to a comment stating Chipotle who, Sweetgreen replied, "You said it, not us," and included an emoji meant to indicate zipped lips, the lawsuit said. Well, that doesn't quite help there. Doesn't help their cause.
Doesn't.
Oh my gosh, for crying out loud. Well, you know, when you start peeling back the layers of the onion and it changes your perception of what's happening. First off, I don't think a lawsuit should be spawned based on a generic term. But when you peel back a couple layers of the onion of interaction between the possible offender and the complainant, you kind of go, oh, okay, go crush them. That's fine. Go crush them. Honestly, though, I don't think that you should be able to sue anybody for.
Agreed.
But when something socially happens and they sit there and lean into it, oh, we didn't say anything. They shouldn't have said anything. If anything, they should have just said it's an ingredient with our great tasting and popular salad bowl that happens to have Chipotle peppers. But you know, when you do that zip lips crap, you're basically admitting that there is confusion possible. I suspect they're going to lose.
I think that emoji is going to do them in if they actually go to trial.
Yeah. And yeah, it says we don't typically comment on litigation, but we will say generally that we're committed to protecting our valuable trademarks and intellectual property. So I don't see how a style of pepper can be your intellectual property and trademark unless it's a stylized graphic of a pepper. And your name happens to be Chipotle, which should be genericide right there. But
yeah,
apparently
it said it was using similar ingredients, similar font, similar marketing or something. It sounds like there are a lot of aspects to this, but I agree with the terminology. I think that is outrageous.
Yeah, if everything matches, then you're actually violating trade dress more than just a generic trademark that shouldn't have been granted. And by the way, the trademark isn't a word mark, Chipotle. It's the stylized Chipotle mark. That's why you can have something in a different category of trademark with the same name, as long as it isn't confusingly similar. Yes. Correct. Yeah. So it just seems so heavy-handed. But if they're actually leaning into it and saying, yeah, we're dangerously close, then I can see why they would get kicked to the curb. And the market was speaking basically because they may have read all of the article and then voted with their dollars by pulling away from Green. God, keep wanting to say Sweetwater for some reason.
Well, and don't you think the fact that the consumers possibly confuse the items kind of proves the case of Chipotle?
Yeah. I mean,
we don't know what the comments were, but it doesn't set a good background.
Yep.
Because that's the whole point of trademark, is so that the consumers don't get hoodwinked, essentially.
That's right. We'll see. I guess maybe next week, Sweetgreen won't be around. It'll be spoiled, so to speak. Let's move on to the next article. This one is over in the Warcrafters channel, and it is Activision is tormenting Call of Duty cheaters in order to study them, stealing their weapons and turning their enemies invisible. According to this article, Call of Duty's Ricochet anti-cheat system doesn't always ban suspected Warzone and Modern Warfare 2 cheaters on site. Sometimes it keeps them around, but makes their efforts to cheat futile by applying mitigations. For example, a mitigation called the Damage Shield disables the cheater's ability to inflict critical damage on other players, so that no matter how hard they try, they will never score a kill. When we first heard about the mitigations last year, the Ricochet team mentioned that there were others aside from Damage Shield, and today the developer shared 3 videos demonstrating it. I think this is pretty neat. This is over at PC Gamer. Tyler Wilde is the author. There's videos over here at PC Gamer, but I won't play them. I encourage you to go over and check it out. But so there's things like Damage Shield and Cloak and Disarm. And with Disarm, it actually pulls their weapon away and makes it disappear so that they don't have it anymore. And sometimes those are hard fought weapons. Damage Shield is, it says diabolical. It probably makes it look like it's doing damage, but it's not really doing damage, making the cheater a little impotent. And Cloak, it says which players reported experiencing last year would be deeply irritating, which basically makes the enemy disappear. So, and they have several of these videos. I think that this is brilliant because it actually consumes a lot of the cheater's time, but it doesn't have any impact on the game, short of the fact that an authentic player would change the dynamic of the game that's being cheated in. So instead of having the players competing on a level field, there's one cheater out there, and it basically invalidates that game. So I don't know how I really feel about this, but in competition, I suppose maybe they're a little bit more heavy-handed. I
love the idea of it. I think it's kind of creative, but I don't know whether this is common or, if people figure it out, are they just going to figure out new workarounds?
What I think should happen with this kind of stuff is if the cheating is detected, I wonder when the cheating is detected, and maybe they could match all of the cheaters together.
Oh, I see. So then you're not impacting other players.
You're not impacting legitimate players, yeah. So all of the cheaters are just getting shunted over to a cheater server, and then they can cheat all they want because everybody's cheating against everybody else.
Well, and why don't they just ban the players, for example? Okay, or do they just create new accounts or something?
Yes, that too. But for the most part, they're just sitting there seeing what the cheater is doing. This is almost psychological warfare within the game. They can sit there and mess with these people. But ultimately, I think the legitimate player is losing regardless because there's an imbalance of player. One that's cheating is if their actions are negatively manipulated, like the enemy disappearing or weapons disappearing or anything like that, or the softening of damage. If they're on a team where there's only one that's cheating, they're now hobbled by basically a weak player, the cheater.
That's true. I was thinking of them playing individually, but yes, I agree. That could be a problem.
Yeah. And that can ruin it for everybody. So, I mean, the winning team loves it, but the losing team with the cheater is going to sit there and be a little bit bent out of shape. So they should just ban them. Ultimately, I think they should just ban them or shunt them off to a cheater server where everybody can just cheat however they want. But let's keep on hustling through the news. This next article, and we'll be done pretty quick, I think, today. This is in the Mobile Channel. Hundreds of very shallow earthquakes detected in California's Long Beach and Seal Beach region. This has been actually in the news for a couple of days now. Seismic arrays deployed in California's Long Beach and Seal Beach areas detected more than 1,000 tiny earthquakes over 8 months. Many of them located at surprisingly shallow depths of less than 2 kilometers below the surface. Now, earthquake swarms are not unheard of. They've happened in the past and they'll continue to happen, but it's usually that there is a fault that's slipping, and these little microquakes, what you don't want is like stiction, where it grabs on, locks down, pressure builds up, and then it jerks, and that causes a major earthquake. And depending on how big it is and where it is, it can be very destructive in a short amount of time. So these little ones don't really mean much, but they could be leading to one of those moments where it catches, and kind of like stripping gears. A lot of pressure gets applied, and then the gear strips and everything goes haywire, and you end up with a 8.2 earthquake in the Long Beach region, which would be just horrendous. And stuff like that has happened in the past. So the findings reported in seismological research letters confirm that the region's portion of the Newport Inglewood Fault splays widely at these shallow depths, showing for the first time with seismic evidence that it may be spread out more than a kilometer. The destructive 1933 magnitude 6.4 Long Beach earthquake may have ruptured in part on the Newport Inglewood fault, while large earthquakes like the 1933 event would likely initiate 6 to 10 kilometers deep. Shallow seismicity suggests that there are many possible paths for a rupture to propagate to the surface, according to researchers Yan Yang and Robert Clayton in the SRL study. Let's see if California and Long Beach and that whole area is very seismic to begin with. There was a road that I used to travel on, and I can't remember it right now, but the way that it was described to me and the way that I remember it is you could actually see it swaying. If you sat there long enough, you could actually see it move a little bit. Now, I don't know if that was an optical illusion, but it was so many years ago, and I still recall that vision, that maybe, I start to question this, and I would love to go back and I'll have to figure out what road that is. And then just go back there and just sit there on the side of the road and see if that's still happening, or if it ever really happened. We'll see. The researchers detected the shallow earthquakes using 3 dense nodal seismic arrays placed temporarily in the Long Beach, Seal Beach area. These arrays contain about 100 sensors per square kilometer, said Yang, compared to the permanent regional seismic networks that have roughly 0.01 stations per square kilometer. Wow. So they're picking up a lot of fidelity there. Let's see.
And it looks like that specific area may be due for a larger earthquake, because they had a large earthquake in 1933 in Long Beach.
Yeah.
But that's quite a while ago.
Yeah, and who knows? I think that it's large. As far as I know, the research suggests that you can't predict an earthquake. You can basically realize that it's in a high seismic area and then build around that, plan for an earthquake at some point. In between 1933 and today, the amount of seismic research that's taken place has done nothing but get better, and the engineering techniques to make survivability of a major earthquake is just skyrocketed. So hopefully we won't have anything horrible, but when the ground shifts too much, nothing can stand up. So we'll see what happens. The study also supports the location of some newly identified faults between Los Alamitos Fault and the Newport Inglewood Fault, and north of the Garden Grove Fault that were discovered recently by oil company exploration studies. So they're drilling down and they hit a fault. But the whole thing is like Swiss cheese.
Couldn't that trigger the earthquake in itself?
Fracking has, based on what I've read. So I suggest that everybody just monitor this stuff and stop turning California into Swiss cheese by drilling all kinds of places. Plus, pumping water out of the aquifer can cause quite a bit of burden on the ground, because now there's nothing supporting it. Water doesn't infinitely it doesn't compress. So when a whole bunch of weight is on it, it's pushing back with the same, unless it filters through the stone. At any rate, a whole bunch of, small earthquakes isn't a big deal. It's when it ends up hitting up there in that 6 range, 7 range, 8 range, that's when it's really deadly. Kind of fascinating. This is one of the areas that I was really fascinated in when I was younger, but I just never kept up with it. I used to sit outside I can't remember the college. There was a college that I used to hang out at because I was interested in mathematics, and they in this building they had a seismometer. And you could sit there and watch the needle clicking away. And every once in a while, there would be an earthquake, and you'd see that needle just swing back and forth.
Oh, wow. I've never seen one of those.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. I wonder where it was. I'll have to... It's been a long time. Can't remember if it was LA or San Pedro. Can't remember. At any rate, let's move on. Let's go on to the next article. This next article is over in The Word and Law. Dun, dun, dun. Tech firm posts white-only job ad and then deletes website amid ensuing outrage. Arthur Grand Technologies is that company. And I actually watched this happen in real time. I find it really fascinating that an article appeared in ohmTown really fast. After Redditors called out a Virginia-based tech firm for posting an illegal and nauseating job ad, which is it's in quotes, that's what people were saying on Reddit, which specified that only white U.S.-born citizens would be considered, Arthur Grand Technologies has deleted the ad, shut down its website and social media presence entirely. In fact, when I went to their website, they had the default installation for WordPress active, which meant that anybody could basically reconstruct a website. I chose the ethical route and did not touch that. With a 10-foot pole, I just kind of closed that tab and said, no, I don't want any part of this. But I was curious because I wanted to know a little bit more about Arthur Grand Technologies, which is basically a job placement,
Staffing firm.
There, that's the better term for it. And they work for some really big companies to place people who are theoretically properly suited for the role. In this particular instance, it looked like a copy and paste from an email, including a directive of don't let the applicants see this. So I thought it was really interesting.
Yeah, I agree. It didn't look like something, I mean, even setting aside the racist aspect, which I'm not minimizing, it didn't look like something that was prepared to be published.
Yeah, let me see if I can... what it ended up saying, it said that there was a note in this listing that says only born U.S. citizens, and then in brackets, white, who are local within 60 miles from Dallas, Texas, and then in brackets again, don't share with candidates. So obviously this was a directive to frame that listing so that only people who were within 60 miles of Dallas, Texas could be an applicant for this job. And the rest of it was for the hiring authority to say, filter those people out and keep, my people, that kind of thing. I mean, it's so abhorrent to say my coping mechanism is to chuckle, because if I don't respond like that, I'll weep for society. And so I'm not sure what's going to come out of this. But they actually slapped on other names like Berkshire Hathaway. That's who they are clients of. So
I'm sure they're real thrilled with this event.
yeah, I mean, this business has to be. What is the problem with Arthur's? For crying out loud, Arthur Anderson, a decade ago, and now Arthur Grand Technologies. For crying out loud, people.
PSA for today: think twice before naming your company Arthur
Anything.
Last name company.
Yep. So this article was provided via arstechnica.com. So go over to Ars Technica. You can go through ohmTown to get there, but Ashley Bellinger is the author of this. And it says the company claims an ex-employee added discriminatory language to the job ad. It's very creative of this ex-employee to put it in brackets. So I like that. That was very forward thinking to make it so that there was some sense that the company could walk away from the reputational hit by saying, well, those were actually extra. That was just a note that was put there. And yeah. So let's see if there's anything else in here. Because I was in that thread watching people make comments about this ad and just shaking my head like, my God, this is the 21st century. You can hire people from anywhere at any given time for nearly any job, regardless of where they're born, orientation, whatever. It doesn't matter. I'm interested in the knowledge, skills, and abilities. So what do you think? There was some dead air there.
I was just looking at the article. I really don't think this was like corporate driven. Even if somebody at the company has beliefs like this isn't in the interest of a company, particularly one doing business with large companies like Berkshire Hathaway. So I suspect it was an employee, but then it kind of begs the question of, well, why did they have access? What kind of oversight, etc. I mean, if somebody hacked in and did it or something, that's a different matter. But I think they're going to have to figure out how it originated and how they can prevent it. But I think it's going to take a reputational hit.
So I think you're framing that off of the LinkedIn post, right? The context of that LinkedIn post. So
yeah.
LinkedIn is kind of a soft paywall. You don't have to pay, but you do have to log in. It's a private network. So most of the content, as far as I recall, is behind a login. You can't just direct link to a profile, for instance. It asks you to log in. And the section that the AI is talking about is a LinkedIn post offers the company's official statement responding to the controversy, claiming that a former employee took an existing posting and added discriminatory language, then reposted it through his own account. Arthur Grand said it is now pursuing legal action against that ex-employee. So that pretty much solidifies the idea that this was a rogue actor within the company. Now it comes down to motivation. Were they trying to basically torpedo Arthur Grand? And why? What was the rationale for doing this? The amount of financial damage that this can do to Arthur Grand is spectacular. And I tell people all the time, first off, don't commit crimes. Don't sit there and do stuff like this, particularly for an employer, because you're not going to get away with it unless you have ample whistleblower information, and definitely don't do it in the United States, because you will get caught if you are doing something illegal. And this is definitely bordering on illegal if what this is claiming is true, right? If what the rogue employee said is true, that violates federal law. They could lose government contracts. They could lose private contracts.
Oh, absolutely. Like there's a lot of damages potentially on the table. And then I wonder if there's like a defamation or
Exactly.
libel or
Yeah.
something. I mean, it kind of depends on how it would be framed, but I think there's a lot here that's actionable if this was really somebody doing this and representing that it was on behalf of the company. If the company did it, that's a whole nother set of issues, but it doesn't sound like that from the information in the article.
Yeah, and so this article even says what apparently people are saying over on Reddit. That one commenter named Quasibar asked, did someone post this not to be shared info on purpose to expose Arthur Grand's hiring practices, or did they post it, quote unquote, accidentally because they were mindlessly copying and pasting, which means that it was a directive from a third party through this proxy who just kind of shit the bed.
Right, that would be much worse than if it was some rogue employee. But if they were following somebody's orders, we've got a much bigger issue.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. But coming out of the gate saying that they're going to pursue legal action is not necessarily anything short of trying to spook the person that did this, or there is no person, or somebody's being scapegoated. There's a whole bunch of stuff, but honestly, in this day and age, I wouldn't be surprised that it actually happened. You know, it isn't just something to try and damage. Why would you do that? You know, if you're employed there, why would you do that? You're employed there, for crying out loud.
Well, and that's what's interesting, because one of the things that you mentioned, I think from Reddit, was that people were speculating as to, was that to draw attention to practices that are happening in the company?
Yeah.
Short of something like that, I don't see why you would benefit by taking that action.
Yeah.
And why anybody else would benefit either.
I mean, that's a hell of a resignation letter. Hey, I quit, so. And I'm taking down the whole company with me.
And oh, by the way, nobody's ever hiring me again when they find out that I'm the one responsible for this.
Yeah, that's going to be an interesting call. Hey, I'm checking this person's references. Have they ever conspired to torpedo your reputation in international media? Yes or no? Check box. Yes or no? This is going to be rough, so we'll keep an eye out on it and see what happens. A lot of the law stuff comes through ohmTown so that we can talk about what's impacting the world legally. At any rate, so the next article is in the Daily News Show. Strange carnivorous plants discovered using slime attack. Researchers have discovered 2 new plant species that live high in the mountains and use an unusual method to trap their unsuspecting prey. I too use a slime attack.
I mean, does this sound like a Pokemon maneuver to me? It does to me.
Oh, yeah. I don't know what kind of element they are, but...
No, me neither.
Aristos Georgiou is the author of this over at Newsweek. And this doesn't have anything to do with it. This is a carnivorous Australian pitcher plant consuming its prey, which is actually kind of boring, by the way. Like bugs fall into a pitcher plant and they just kind of dissolve in the liquid at the bottom of the pitcher plant. And it's all kind of, I mean, you have to do time lapse. But anyway, they're talking about a slime attack. So scientists have discovered 2 species of carnivorous plants previously unknown to science that use slime to catch their prey. I love this stuff. Still finding stuff out there. I think it's amazing. Botanists spotted the new species high in the Andes Mountains of southern Ecuador, not far from the border with Peru. Plant species dubbed Pinguicula gimbarensis and Pinguicula ambrophila. I will not relent. I will follow through. Respectively, have been described in a paper published in the journal Phytokeys. Is this what it looks like? Yes. They form part of the butterworts genus. You ever have a case of butterworts? I hear you have to cast a spell from Harry Potter.
Sounds like it's from a fantasy or video game.
I once read a copy of Harry Potter and I got a case of butterworts.
I was thinking it's got to be a spell, or maybe it was in the, I can't think what the class was, but there was something relating to plants.
Oh, right. Herbology.
Herbology, yes.
So it's a group of more than 100 species of flowering plants, technically known as Pinguicula. I guess that's how you pronounce it, right? Pinguicula. Pinguicula. Whatever. They have the ability to catch insects with their slimy leaves. Most members of this genus are found in the northern hemisphere, unlike the 2 members. So I guess that's a slimy leaf, and that catches bugs. I think people should do this as natural insecticide. Just plant that in your basement, and it'll catch spiders and stuff like that.
Yeah, but spiders are good.
Spiders are good, but I'm just saying that if you're going to catch insects, then somehow, why do basements always get like the most insects crawling around in them? Anyway, researchers first observed the new species during expeditions to numerous remote Ecuadorian habitats where little is known about the local flora.
That's
pretty
probably
cool.
Because most scientists haven't ventured to those locations.
True. They're small, generally measuring only a few inches in height in diameter. Okay. They grow either on the moist peat-like ground of their high aldean habitats, or in some cases, on the surface of rock walls, as with P. ambrophila. Let's take a look at... Oh, that looks like an orchid.
It does look like an orchid.
Interesting. So the plant belongs to the butterworts genus. I just had to say that one more time because I saw it in the article again. It's pretty neat. This will ultimately be told in the laboratory, I think, Henning said. There might be a small number of new species showing up somewhere in the remote high Andes of northwestern South America that can be recognized as new species by their outer appearance alone. However, the total number of species might be much higher and somewhat hidden in a deceptive morphological similarity between even distant populations. So yeah, they'll have to do some, like, they do genetic sequencing now of plants so that you can tell one from another. To determine
the scientific classification.
Yeah. There's somebody, who is it? Well, I can't say their name, but anyway, they are known to the mayor of ohmTown, where they are basically there is a whole community that swaps plants, little snippets, because of the various characteristics of those plants. And I posed the question, well, how do you know that that plant is an authentic that plant? And subsequently, I did some digging around and found out that there are people out there that sequence plants so that if you want a specific trait, you can order a plant with that specific trait. It's pretty fascinating tech out there.
I'm
That
sure
way,
Mendel would be impressed. The pea plant experimenter.
Yeah, I think that would be pretty amazing. Can you imagine bringing that back to him as tech and saying, hey, do this? Blow his mind. Anyway, it says, hence they believe that their two species will very likely be accompanied by more novelties in the near future. Sadly, the question likely will be whether we discover and protect them before they are destroyed with their habitats. Probably along with their habitats. One of the things that I learned about a lot of the regions in South America, Central America, is companies are buying up large swaths of forest, giving the regional area, either the tribes or populations within the region, some money, and then just obliterating the trees. They convert to farming, but it is a different level of subsistence existence. So they lose all of that protection, they convert to farming, and they become farmers instead of what they were originally geared for. Then the money goes away.
You're losing all the biodiversity.
Yeah.
And it's a different ecological stage.
Yep.
That's not a good thing.
Yep. So let's keep on hustling through the news. The next article is over in the Warcrafters channel. No Man's Sky's next major update adds new ships and spooky corrupted planets. I love No Man's Sky. It has a VR element to it, so you can actually play No Man's Sky in VR, which I absolutely dig. But to me, it actually makes it a little bit harder. The situational awareness is completely different in VR. So it's getting a new update a mere month and a bit after it got its last one, which was very well received. The 4.2 Interceptor patch, which releases today, well, in the last 24 hours, brings new enemies, new resources, and a new starship class, which Hello Games says is No Man's Sky's most varied starship to date. It also makes a few performance and visual tweaks, especially for users in VR. The last update actually did a tremendous amount of work in the VR space as well. But apparently this one is even better. So the update introduces new corrupted planets, which have fallen prey to a darkness that is spreading through the Sentinel Horde. And let's keep on hustling through this. I might end up having to start streaming No Man's Sky. I'll be a NMS main, I suppose, in VR. I don't know. I've been looking for my forever game to stream on Twitch pretty much forever. And every time I find one, there's something that pulls me away from it. I don't know. We're coming up on my deep dive into streaming, and I think No Man's Sky might be it. Because the thing that I love is there's endless exploration. I mean, there's just so many planets that you go out and you categorize everything on a planet, and you would be spending multiple lifetimes doing this. If it was real, like a real life endeavor, it would be amazing. But it's a game, and so you struggle with the fact that you're walking around and identifying a product, a game, an asset. It's just a whatever it might be. Like you identify this little crystal bundle here, and then you go to another planet, and it's the same kind of bundle, maybe a little smaller, a little different, but it's got a different name, and so you catalog that, and you get a little money for it. You go to another planet, and you do the same thing, except that there's thousands of these things that you're identifying across the world, and you'll spend months doing one world if you try to catalog an entire planet. Absolutely fun for some people, but I don't know. We'll see. But I'll be playing this in VR here soon. I've played it several times, but I keep starting over. What do you think?
I think it looks cool, and I like the idea of all of the planets. Like, it sounds like you could play it repeatedly and really kind of do something different each time.
Oh, wow. I love this ship. Oh my gosh. I love this ship. Let me close the ad there. That was a really cool effect. Wow. Okay. Well, anyway, I can't sit here and watch this because I will end up ending the show early. Huh?
I said, I can't even.
Anyway, it's really neat. So go and check it out. If you've never seen No Man's Sky, it's from Hello Games. Go over to Steam, buy it. You will not regret it. There's a lot of history with No Man's Sky where it came out and it was less than stellar, but they never relented on its evolution, and now it's just hitting it out of the park, just absolutely crushing it. So
I don't like the huge spider-like enemies, though. That makes me a little concerned.
Oh, you're talking about the expansion? Huge spider-like enemies, or, and this is not a phrase that the author is thrilled to read, they're small crab-like children.
That sounds perhaps worse than the spider-like enemies.
Yeah. So it says you're armed with stealth tech, flamethrower, and explosive weaponry. So the phrase "nuke it from orbit" is probably, and there's actually another VR game where I think it's a VR game where you basically run around with a flamethrower and try and kill spiders. Maybe this is the No Man's Sky version of it. But a lot of the critters, they don't attack. All of the like flora and fauna. The fauna doesn't really attack, not unless you shoot it. Otherwise, it just walks around. It doesn't care about you. But sentinels come after you, and maybe these enemies are actively after you. We'll see. I'll play it. I don't know. Maybe this weekend I can give it a shot. Okay, let's hustle on. This is the last one. I'll preface it with the statement that we have been told many years ago that a person wanted to buy a house on a hill because snakes cannot go up hills. They roll back down.
I personally love that theory, although I don't subscribe to that theory.
I can tell you from experience that in the exploration phase of buying a house, Mayor Watt drove around ohmTown to find a place, and when the door was opened, a snake slithered underneath the vehicle and out the other side just in time for the AI and their body to be told as they opened the door, there's a snake under the car, and that house was summarily vetoed as an option.
The reality is the snake may have moved on to the next house, but it was invisible at the next house.
And it was invisible to the AI at that point too. That's when they had a different body. So now their Terminator body would have taken care of that snake in no time. So anyway, can some snakes do cartwheels to escape or startle predators? I don't know.
That would startle prey, I would think.
That title is the sole reason why I actually included this article. In research published in Biotropica, which is the worst orange drink I've ever had, it's all snake. Investigators report that the dwarf reed snake, Pseudorhabdion longiceps, performs cartwheels when threatened. This is the first time such an active rolling motion has been documented in snakes. I've actually seen it in lizards, with images, and a detailed description, apparently.
Okay, the name worries me because I think it's a water snake. The only thing worse than ground snakes are water snakes or tree snakes.
Yeah, you don't want drop snakes. So let's see. It performs cartwheels when threatened. This is the first time such an active rolling motion has been documented. It's a nocturnal small snake that lives in regions in Southeast Asia. You're safe. Typical defense mechanisms that small snakes use against predators include fleeing, camouflage, coloration, odors, death feigning. That's what I do. And intimidation. That's what I try, but it turns into death feigning. Some snakes also use passive rolling, but investigators have...
I'm not sure what passive rolling looks like.
It's part of the death feigning. They just kind of plop over and then just tumble down the hill. Some snakes also use passive rolling, but investigators have observed that the dwarf reed snake performs active cartwheeling by repeatedly launching the coils of its body into the air and rolling down inclines. Hey!
Oh my gosh, that person must have been correct.
Wow. There isn't much to this article, by the way. I thought that there was going to be pictures, but there's no pictures.
I wanted a video.
This is from Wiley. I don't know if it's, the publisher Wiley. There's links and stuff that are in this article. The writers, the publishers, the researchers, I don't know. It says author Evan Sang Huat Kwa, PhD of University Malaysia Sabah. Says we believe that this behavior may be more widespread in other small snake species, especially members of the subfamily Calamarae. Why does that sound like calamari?
Yeah, because it does. It's probably from the same Latin root.
There is a, what is it, a caterpillar or something like that does that. It curls up into like a tube and then rolls away. But it's kind of like a pill bug, but it's longer and it has that hard pill bug exoskeleton kind of thing. And it curls up when you try and pick it up. How rude.
I don't know which one that is.
Yeah, it'll take too long. Well, that's okay. I guess we'll circle back around. Yeah.
Maybe cartwheel.
We'll cartwheel. But like every episode, we take you back to the welcome sign of ohmTown. That way you can click on that welcome sign and it'll give you a whole bunch of news. Arkansas House OK's social media age verification requirement. Arkansas? It wasn't Arkansas.
It was not, so that means we've got at least 2 of these.
What was the other one? Was it Ohio or...
Utah.
Oh, Utah, that's right. So now Arkansas requires a social media age verification, which, man, I don't know what that really accomplishes.
I don't either. I mean, isn't that one of those things where, well, I guess that's another problem, right? Because I assume you have to have an account. It's not it's not the same as going to a website. So now you're going to have to put your birthday in your account. And then that goes to the thing about the anonymity.
Yeah, lie. You know, if kids want to be online, they're not going to sit there and go, oh, I'm overwhelmed with the requirement to be honest in creating a social media account. As it is, you have to be 13 for a website to start collecting data. And so they say, oh, you can't have a website unless you're 13. But nobody follows that, and they sign up when they're, 10. And I don't know. I just don't. What I don't like is kids being online where their identity is known, right?
Yeah, that's a real problem.
I'd rather children have anonymity so that they don't get bullied by people where if they are anonymous online, it's much harder to traverse into the real world. But if they are known and it's verified that they're a kid, there's a lot more babysitting by the website to protect that kid. Unfortunately, the tools just aren't there. So it's really kind of forcing the hand of the website to now mandate that everybody has to identify themselves. And I think that's really the push, is to de-anonymize social media.
And I assume that all these sites are going to have to do this for all of their locations, because are they really going to be able to set up a separate thing for the state of Arkansas? I don't think so.
In bulk, yeah, I mean, it's possible. So I can tell you from experience that if you want to buy something from a certain website and it's verboten in that other location, they won't even send you a package through a state that doesn't allow its conveyance through the state.
Okay, well, that's true.
And so you can't ship alcohol to certain states. You can't do certain things. And it's all built into the e-commerce solution of the website. So at any rate, every time you go into ohmTown, you're going to find something that you're interested in, folks. So go and swing by, check it out. You don't have to sign up, but I would encourage you. You can actually start customizing what channels you are interested in, and you'll see news that focuses on that. And we have roughly 50 channels. We actually have 47 that are active. I haven't activated the other 3 yet, pending additional news sources. But there's 6 main categories, like creative and maker, news and business, science and education, food, drink and entertainment, society, politics and law, and gadgets and technology. The 7th one over here is the podcast. So if you don't have a podcatcher to catch the pods, you can go over to ohmTown.com and listen to the podcast, because it acts like a podcatcher to catch pods, but only the ohmTown pod.
I'm not sure I'd recognize a podcatcher if I encountered one.
You know what it looks like because of the way that it does. All right, folks. That's it for today. You have now seen how the sausage is made, heard how the sausage is made, and we're on the other side of it. So I'm going to cut it off and cook this thing up, and got a nice hot flat top ready to put this thing out for everybody to consume. What do you say? You want to say bye to everybody?
Yes. Good night, ohmTown citizens. We'll see you at tomorrow's show.
9 p.m. Eastern. You get to see how the sausage and hear how the sausage is made again and 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 again. Bye-bye, everybody.